So this is the 5-step formula, which if you do this every time and you get good at it and you get quick at it, there's no reason that you should ever have mess ups from a schematic standpoint. There's no reason that your offensive line, running backs, quarterback should ever be off the same page. So again, we're going to go over this, then we're going to put it into action with some different fronts and some different plays, and we're going to draw some stuff up and talk about it. So if it doesn't make sense right now, it's kind of abstract, just have faith that we'll circle back around to it and we'll hammer home these points. So again, when we talk about doing this box count, we have to first obviously identify what the box is, who's in our count, okay? So that means we have to identify how many blockers we have for the play we have called. So if we're in quads and we have one back, that means unless we're running with the quarterback, we're going to have probably 5 blockers, right? If we're going to bring the H back in or that slot back in, you might have 6. But that's all going to depend on your formation, on your play call, on your style or your rules for add-ins, etc. You have to figure out how many guys you got first. The next thing that I do, and you could really flip steps 2 and 3 depending on your preference, but the way that I do it is you have to identify who is your unblocked or read defenders. Like who absolutely is going to be out of our count. For us, a lot of times that's the backside second level defender. Okay? For a lot of teams, that's going to be the backside C-gap defender on the line of scrimmage. Okay, so your end or your Will, Sam, Matt, whatever those players might be, could be a half depending on their alignment and their bumps. But either way, identify who you're not blocking, because now we know he's not going to be in our count. The third step is, I call these ISO defenders, and maybe that's confusing, but basically there's the explanation. These are your special blocks, right? So that meaning these guys are specifically accounted for by a player. So you can see some examples. We know we're trapping the 3-10, okay? We know that block is being executed by likely a pulling guard, maybe an H-back. If we have an ISO on a linebacker, we know that linebacker is being ISO'd by, probably a running back or whichever guy we have designated to do that on the play. And then same thing with a linebacker on power or counter. If we know that a certain guard is meant to pull to a certain linebacker, those are going to be called ISO blocks for my count. Okay, those guys are guys we know who's got them, we know where they're at, it doesn't matter. That's before the play, those are our special blocks. So now we know that the rest of our guys have to be responsible for the rest of their guys. Our reads are out of the way, and our special blocks are out of the way. So we start from the first defender on the play side. It could be the C-gap defender, that could be an overhang linebacker, that could be, a tight 4-eye if they're playing the 30 front, whoever that might be. And we just start to assign defenders and blockers to one another. And once all of your blockers are gone, your box count is done. You can only block with what you have, right? So, again, this is very abstract. I want to leave this up in case people are still taking notes for a minute, but is there any questions so far before we start kind of jumping back into putting this into practice and seeing how this works in real time? Okay, cool. Is everybody good? Is anybody still copying down? We'll come back to this. Okay, so here is, from an offensive perspective, a very good situation in my opinion. Now, keeping in mind that this is probably a Georgia team that was much better than this Texas team on this particular year. This was probably 6 or 7 years ago when Texas wasn't very strong and Georgia was very good. This is also probably a 3rd and long. So we have to remember, down and distance is always going to play into what the defense is giving you and what the offense is trying to run as well. So I'm not saying you're going to get looks like this often. This is a good example to start on. So I've numbered this one for us. So on offense, we have 7 players in the box, correct? So depending on the play we've called, we're either going to have 5 or 6 blockers, and a read player being the quarterback. So mostly, if we hand this football off, we're talking about run stuff right now. If we hand this football off, we have effectively 5 blockers. If the quarterback runs the ball, we have 6 blockers. Does that make sense to everybody? On defense, obviously they only have 5 players here. I think this film is pretty tight, but it's wide enough to say that if we're talking about where our box is actually located, there's no defender in the box here. Okay, if we have a detached tight end or something like that outside that guy's accounting for, we have another sort of 1-for-1 number there anyway, and we don't have to worry about it. Same thing here. We have the luxury of seeing that this is a bit of a wider angle. This is also the weak side of the field, so I'm going to assume that based on this photo, there's nobody that's, you know, right here in the shadow just waiting to blitz. So effectively, we have 7-on-5 as an offense, which is great. I mean, I would love to see this type of front all the time if I'm an offensive coordinator. So if we go back to our principles that we just talked about, we've done step 1. We've identified how many blockers we have, but we haven't called a play. So let's say that this play that we're talking about for ease of reference is going to be zone right. So going to this side of the ball. That gives us 5 blockers, a quarterback who can be responsible for a defender on the backside, and we also have 5 defenders. So right now, we don't have, in my system, because I like to do some RPO stuff, I didn't run a lot of it last year, but if I was coaching higher levels of football, I would be doing a lot of RPO and a lot of run screen option stuff. I tend to leave this backside second level defender unblocked. Now we don't have one of those, as you'll notice. So there's no need for us to leave anybody unblocked on this play, in my opinion, because we have enough guys to block all of their guys. There's no need to leave a read player here just to go make a tackle or affect your mesh point. So we don't have any read players. We know that. We have any ISO players? No, there's no special blocks on a zone call for us. We're just zoning this up. Again, so we've handled steps 1 through 3 already. And now the most common thing that you're gonna have to do on every play is we just start assigning defenders and blockers to one another from the play side, working back. And the reason we start from the play side is because obviously the play side defenders are the most dangerous defenders. That's where the football is going, and that's where we want to start counting backwards from when we start our count. So, you know, looks like right here, we have 4 down linemen and 1 backer. Now, you could say, you know, this guy's uncovered, he can climb straight here, he's got a good angle here to seal. Leaves your center in a bit of a tough spot here to hook a nose, who's probably, you know, a little bit quicker than him, especially in this package. And then, you know, you have great angles on the backside here. So we've just blocked everybody from the play side back. We've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's playing downhill here, and if there really is nobody here, and the quarterback can read that and get outside, then either way we have a great opportunity to count this box and see that we have an advantage. But another thing you could do, and this is where the offensive line stuff is very important, is I would say, depending on personnel, and you know, my principles of numbers and leverage becomes very important here, because it only takes one of these guys to mess up your whole play. You can have great blocks and numbers everywhere you want. Now, what I would do is, based on the personnel of these 2 players, whoever's better, who's got the better angles here right now for their one-on-one downfield block, or one-on-one down line blocks? The center or the tackle?
Tackle.
Tackle, right? Tackle's got a very easy leverage to get to this guy's play side shoulder. Our center's going to have a tough job here to snap that football and get his ass in the hole and really seal that off. Well, also this guy has to climb through. So this isn't a great situation with leverage for us. So what we would do if I was sort of drawing up to this front, I would lock this guy here, would man lock him on that outside player, okay? And I would have these 2 combo to here. You get a hip and shoulder read between these 2 players, meaning if this guy floats over here, we know that, you know, these guys probably have a game, and if his hip floats to the center of this guard's mass, he's going to take over and he's going to climb. But really what we want to do, where we know the snap count, we know where their ball is going, is we want this player to really influence this block by running through his play side armpit, blast that open like a door. turn that like a turnstile, have him put his A-hole in the play hole, seal that guy off while he continues to climb to that map and get on his play side armpit. Another thing here, how's our angles here? Angles are great, right? So there, we've just counted the box. Now we know where the ball should go. We can count it the other way too. We could have,
Center.
what's that?
Oh, no, that was,
No. So if we went the other way, we can do this multiple plays, multiple ways, and we wanted to run zone left. Same thing. We got 5 blockers. They've got 5 defenders. We have this guy can get onto our DN here. Doesn't necessarily have to bounce outside. If these guys have great angles, this can turn into 2 down blocks. Again, this is tough 2-gap play for your guard and center here to get up to this mic and to seal this shoulder, to have him come across 2 gaps and seal that off. It's going to be a tough look. That's also a tough block to get inside on the backside tackle. So just by counting the box, what way should this football go? It should go right. It's the same look up front. It's the same look on offense, and it's really the same play, just different directions. But because we've gone through our process of counting the box, we now know where the football should go. We've got numbers, and now we've got leverage. So we could have numbers and have no leverage, but which would you rather have? 1 or 2? 2. Yeah, exactly. So not all plays are going to be this simple. There's going to be muddier reads and muddier sort of alignments that you're going to have to deal with. But if we always follow these principles, we can always get to the problem-solving place where you're scheming. And when we'll get into how we kind of teach this to our O-line to make sure that this gets repped and that we don't just tell them how to do it and then they forget. But before we move on from this, let's talk a little bit about pass pro. Now, I am probably in Canada especially, I'm probably in the vast minority of O-line coaches in this point, so you don't have to take what I'm saying for gospel. I cannot stand slide protection. I think it's the worst play in football. That and rollout passes, I think they're the worst plays in football. And I'm going to tell you why. We have 5 O-linemen that are basically trained at least half of the time to be in pass protection against down defensive linemen. Okay? When we start sliding away from linemen and sliding to space, we end up just creating more space to have linebackers and sometimes even down linemen going up against running backs or being unblocked or gaining leverage, or we're moving O-linemen in ways that we don't teach them to move when we rep one-on-ones or when we rep our pass pro in 80s. So if we do the same thing that we've kind of always done with our box counts, we can adapt this for pass protection as well. So right now we know we have a back in protection to help us. So do we really need them right now? No, we have 5 defenders for 5 O-linemen. Now they may bring pressure from outside. They may bring some sort of weird pressure, and we might have an O-line lose where your guy has to help out, and that's great. But from a schematic perspective, I would say we lock the guy that's over top of you, and the guy that's uncovered in the protection basically becomes a read to help player. So for us, we quick set the profile, meaning we quick set everything. We quick set it to the play side armpit of our defender. We don't give ground for free. We don't allow you to get a 3-yard run at us and create space. Whoever has played goalie or played soccer or hockey, they tell the goalie to stand on the line, or they tell him to stand at the top of the crease. Yeah, because why? Cuts down the angle. So if we are already giving up ground and we're in the back of the net before the play starts, that's not a good situation for us. We want to force him to gain the ground that he needs to gain. Now obviously that takes some technique, takes some work, but you will see if you commit to doing some quick set work, you'll eliminate stunts, cross stunts from the D-line. They'll run into each other, and it will take so much longer for them to get back around upfield before the ball is out. You will see that you will not have O-linemen just getting olayed with a little sidestep and jab. There will be so many less holes in the middle of your O-line than happens with slide pro when we just have guys vacating to a spot even though the numbers might dictate that they should just stay put. Okay? So for now, if I'm counting this box, this guy's lined up as a shade on him, and so is this guy. Obviously, he can't block two people, so him being the left tackle, he has to take the guy to his left. He's gonna have to take the guy to his left. This guy is shaded in our center, he's covered. He's gonna block him, okay? These two guys have a bit of a funny job because this guy's sort of shading both of them. I would say that this left tackle needs to post in, and this left guard needs to basically pretend that he's uncovered, okay? He's gonna be the read guy for this Mac blitzes. Right now, we also have running back going out here, but I would actually say that this is probably the reason they ran this alignment, is to confuse which of these two guys is uncovered, and they're trying to get a one on zero with number 52, who may or may not be currently playing for the Eagles. Can't remember. This is a few years back. But the principle remains, is if you have an alignment like this, your team has to talk about your pass protection. Now, if you say this guy's lined up shaded inside like this, tackle, you're gonna post in and take him, and guard, you're gonna have eyes to the second level. Now we teach our pop and drop technique, where if this guy does blitz, this guy's actually gonna come back and get him. So I don't have any film of that right now, but it does happen, and there's lots of film out there that we can find of it. But again, we've got 5 guys to block 5 guys, and we've got another guy in protection that we can have responsible for blitzes. I don't want my running back blocking anybody in here if he doesn't have to, but that's just my philosophy on it.